Cape Cod Broadcasting weaves the listening environments of 99.9 WQRC, Ocean 104.7, WFCC Classical 107.5, Cape Country 104, and CapeCon.com's website experience to reflect the lifestyles of the people who live, work, and play on Cape Cod. We hope that you enjoy this podcast.
I'm Laura Reckford, and this is Sunday Journal. I'm here in the studio with Meghan Schafer, who is the Southeast Play Space Program Director for Horizons for Homeless Children. Meghan, welcome to the show.
Glad to be here.
Thanks for being here with us. Now, you got in touch with us recently because of all the negative press we've had here on the Cape about homelessness and some of the criticism of organizations that serve the homeless. And in your email to us, you wanted to get the word out that your organization is proud to be serving young children and their families experiencing homelessness on Cape Cod.
Absolutely. We're very proud of the work that we do here on the Cape Cod and want to make sure the community is aware that there are really good things and good people doing good things here on the Cape.
Now, let's start with an explanation of what Horizons for Homeless Children is. What does the agency do?
Absolutely. So we work to improve the lives of young children experiencing homelessness, specifically children who are not yet of school age. We work to provide early education and opportunities for play for the children. We work to address policy and advocacy issues around homelessness, and we work to provide childcare for homeless children in the areas that we have childcare centers. So we really work to try and find comprehensive services to help these families and these children heal from what they've been through and get back on their feet.
And this is such an interesting mission. How did this agency come about? It seems like such a simple thing to gather volunteers to play with children, one of the things you do. But how did this all come about?
Absolutely. So we were founded back in 1988 by Bright Horizons, which is a childcare organization that works with corporations to provide childcare for their employees. They were trying to find a way to give back to the community and meet a need that was not being met. And through their research, what they found was education opportunities, specifically for preschool-aged homeless children, was just something that didn't exist. And 0 to 5 is such a critical development age for brain development that it's so crucial that we help these children who may have challenges from the trauma they've experienced and get back on their feet. So they started up in the greater Boston area with the place-based program in that area, and we've since expanded to be a statewide organization with 5 regional areas that provide play opportunities and educational opportunities, as well as we have 3 education centers for families experiencing homelessness where they can get wonderful child care and support services for the families.
And you mentioned that these children, these young children, may have been through trauma and often have been through trauma in their lives. Talk about that. How does that come about?
Absolutely. So being homeless in itself is a traumatic experience for a young child. For a young child, they are at a critical age of development where routines and rituals and education is so important. And when a young child has their education interrupted or experiences trauma from seeing things that young children should not see or experiencing things such as divorce, such as domestic violence, such as mental health issues, it can really affect them in many ways. For our children who have experienced homelessness, they will be twice as likely to have infections and illnesses because of the stress they're experiencing in their young lives. They will have 4 times more likely to have emotional and behavioral challenges and twice as likely to have learning disabilities. And not because they're not intelligent, but when you're a young child and you're dealing with so much stress from moving from place to place, from hearing some scary conversations, from just being in an environment where there's so many other people who have experienced trauma, it can really affect you. And these children, what they're experiencing is really called toxic stress. And it's when you've experienced so much stress that it becomes a norm for you. And so for these children, surviving is the state that they are living in. They don't have the ability to move past survival, so they don't have the chance to allow emotions like joy or even anger or anything back in their life until they get a chance to heal. So it really has a big impact on their ability to even allow learning back into their life because they're dealing with so much in their young lives.
Now, here on the Cape, you work with children in shelters in Bourne, Falmouth, and Hyannis. Is that right?
That is correct.
And so those are really the main homeless shelters we have here for families, although there are families that are living in motels and are living maybe couch surfing, as they call it, or going from place to place that could also be considered homeless, but those are the shelters that you work in.
Absolutely. We like to work with the shelter environment because it's an environment where we can come in and really have the best impact on the children, help them get past this experience, and hopefully be even more resilient for the future.
Now, what age are the children that you work with typically?
We serve children anywhere from newborn infants up until about 6 to 7 years old. We would never turn any child away who wants to be a part of our program, but that's really what our program is designed for developmentally.
And again, we were talking about the different types of homelessness, and when you talk about a family being homeless, what are the different types of situations that have brought them to this point?
Absolutely. Homelessness is such a complex issue in this day and age. It's not simply people who are in poverty situations. There are many causes that get them to that situation. It could be something as simple as divorce. You could have a mother and a father both working full-time to meet the mortgage or the rent. And when one of those people comes out of the situation, one person's income, unfortunately, does not cut it today. I could give you some math that, if you're working a minimum wage, it's about $16,600 a year that you're going to earn. Well, the average cost for rent for a two-bedroom apartment in this state is $22,000 a year. The math just does not add up for a single-parent household. Other things that affect it include domestic violence, fleeing from unsafe situations, young mothers who are teen parents who are pregnant and at a young age becoming parents for the first time, and unfortunately their families have not wanted to allow them in their homes during this time period in their lives. We also have families who are experiencing substance recovery, which means they've had some substance abuse in their past. Now they are sober and getting back on their feet and reuniting with their children to go to a better place. So there are many different complex causes to this issue, and it's not just a one-cause issue, which is why it's so hard to address this type of an issue.
And we're hearing in this area, and that also really all over the country, people, especially in urban areas, are seeing an increase in homeless families. Are you seeing that in your line of work?
Yes, believe it or not, since 2006, there's been a 250% increase here in Massachusetts based upon a recent report from Homes for Families, which is just a staggering number for me to even understand. In fact, in 2014, in the country, 2.5 million children experienced being homeless. Can you imagine in this country? And right here in Massachusetts right now, 16,000 children are experiencing homelessness right here in Massachusetts and here on Cape Cod.
Why do you think those figures are going up?
I think it stems back a lot to the initial numbers I gave you around what it costs to live and what people are being able to make. The average homeless family typically is a single mother. She's usually in her mid-20s, and she usually has 2 children around preschool age. And she usually only has either a high school diploma or not even a high school diploma. So when you have that limited education, it is hard to get past a minimum wage job. And when housing costs $22,000 a year just for a 2-bedroom apartment, it's really hard to make ends meet. And the other big caveat is childcare. There's a recent article that just came out yesterday about the cost of childcare in this country. And here in Massachusetts, we have the highest cost in the nation. It can cost over $12,000 a year on average to provide childcare for a child so that you can work and earn an income. But as I mentioned before, if you're only earning $16,000 a year and $12,000 of that is to go to pay for your child's childcare, you're not making ends meet. You can't pay the bills. So these types of costs, the increase in childcare, the increase in housing, and the stagnation of income has really led to more and more families not being able to support themselves.
Very tough times for working families. I'm Laura Reckford, and this is Sunday Journal. I'm talking to Meghan Schafer from Horizons for Homeless Children. We're talking about the issue of homelessness here on Cape Cod and in the region. Now, once people become homeless, it can be very hard to get back up on their feet. Tell us about that. What have you found in the people you work with?
Absolutely. Many of the families we work with are very hardworking people, and many of the times they're even working when they're in shelter. But to get back on your feet, there are many barriers that they need to get past. They need to have an income that's going to be able to afford an apartment. They need to have sustainable childcare options. And for a lot of our families, one of the biggest barriers to getting that job and getting back out on their feet quicker is that childcare. So when you go for a job, you need to have childcare already in place for your child. Now, there are vouchers in our state that do help families who need help with childcare. However, first of all, there is thousands of children literally on the wait list right now. I'm not exaggerating. Thousands of children on the wait list to get those vouchers. But also, in order to get that job, you have to have childcare. Only to get one of those vouchers, you need to already have the job. It's a catch-22. You can't get one without the other. So families spend months trying to get through the red tape of getting the right voucher, of having the right job, of having an employer who's willing to wait for that so that they can get back on their feet. And that's a tough thing to be able to work with and get past. Beyond that, being in shelter, it's a very stressful situation, not just for a child, but for the parent too. When they're in shelter, there are lots of rules because there's lots of families trying to live in one space, and it can be a very different experience going from being able to do anything you want and having people telling you what to do, what classes to go to, where to be, having to share living space with 10 to 12 other families in the same area, sharing a kitchen, sharing bathroom time, sharing showers, everything that a family needs to do. Plus, a family only gets a bedroom normally in many family shelters to have their entire family private space. So mom and kids, mom and dad and kids are all trying to live and sleep in one bedroom. I don't know about you, but I love camping as much as the next person. But when you're trying to live 24/7 with your family and an infant and a preschooler in one space, nobody's getting a lot of sleep. And that causes more undue stress. But I think the biggest stress causer for many homeless families is what's called parenting in public. That is the feeling of being in a shelter. There are staff on site 24 hours a day, and you feel like they're watching you and judging whether or not you're good parents, judging every single move, every single way you discipline your child. That is hard to be watched under that type of a microscope. And they feel that stress, and their kids feel that stress, and that creates a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety, and a lot of mental health issues that are compounded by being in an environment that is supportive but can also be a very challenging thing to get past, to get back on your feet.
Lots of issues with living in the shelters. Now, you work with a lot of volunteers. Do you need training to be a volunteer? What is the process for getting involved with this?
Absolutely. So our biggest volunteer program is called our Play Space program. We go into the homeless shelters here on Cape Cod, and we design and build trauma-informed playrooms. Picture a preschool classroom, and you'll get a very good picture of that. And within those spaces in the shelters, we bring in volunteers. Anybody from the Cape who's over 18 or 16 and 17-year-olds with a parent can volunteer for our program. It's a chance to play with some children for 2 hours a week. Literally just play. I'm talking bubbles, Play-Dohs, reading books, things kids need to learn and thrive and grow. And for our kids, they need to heal. And it's a great chance for you to give back in a meaningful way, but also you get a chance to play for 2 hours a week. So it's a wonderful thing for you to get that feeling of giving back and having a wonderful experience as well.
Now, do you need volunteers? Is it something where you're short on volunteers, you need people?
It is an ongoing need for volunteers. We ask our volunteers to commit to 6 months because, again, as I talked about earlier, routine is so important for young children. So we want them to see the same adults each week. So for 6 months, same 2 hours a week, same day and time, we need volunteers to come in and play. And as I said, we have 5 homeless shelters serving a couple hundred kids here on the shelter, here on Cape Cod. And it's really not only important for the children and their healing and their development, but a benefit of our volunteers being with the children is the parents get a chance to take on-site classes, meet with case managers, have those difficult conversations that you don't want to have in front of your kids. So it really benefits the whole family getting back on their feet much faster than if they didn't have this type of experience in their lives.
And so what's involved for people who go to that training?
So anyone who comes through our training will get a chance to learn about family homelessness, about causes, about the journey these families go through to get to where they're at. They'll learn about our program as a whole and all the services we provide. They'll get a chance to learn about what it means to be in a play space, what it means from beginning to end and what a shift can look like and what success looks like in a shift. Then they're going to get a chance to learn about early childhood development, what it's like to be an infant versus a toddler versus a preschooler, and a chance to figure out how to guide the behaviors that they may see of the children in the play space. And then finally, just some logistics around what things you should do and expect when you are in a homeless shelter, an environment that may be new and different from you from what you've experienced in your past.
And so, of course, people go through years of training of working with young people, but you folks have figured out how to combine that into a 3-hour session.
Absolutely. And the great thing is you're not going to learn everything in 3 hours. It gives you a good starting point, and then we'll place you with experienced volunteers who have been around, who understand it. There's always shelter staff on site to support you at all times, and we do ongoing enrichment opportunities throughout the year for people who want to get a deeper understanding and knowledge base.
Now, you're someone who works with homeless people. How does it make you feel when you hear criticisms about homeless people and the agencies who work with them? Do you feel like it comes from some misunderstandings?
I hope it comes from misunderstanding because, to me, we are all human beings. We are all trying to do our best and get back on our feet wherever we are in life and better ourselves and better where we are at. And homeless families are no different. They've had something in their life that they did not plan, they did not want. Nobody wants to be homeless, especially not families with young children. So agencies like ours are a chance for the community to join together and take that statement of it takes a village to raise a child. Well, it takes a community to help make sure everyone in the community has what they need to be successful in their lives. And, if I was in this situation myself someday in the future, I would hope there's agencies like mine and other wonderful agencies on the Cape to help me in a state where I need to get back on my feet. And I think if we all just understand that we're all human beings trying to do our best, we all want to be good people. We all want to give back. And these are some people who need us more now than ever.
And you mentioned you do advocacy, and I think you mentioned to me before the show you have a bill before the legislature as well.
Absolutely. As I mentioned before, childcare is one of the biggest hindrances to our families getting back on their feet faster. So we are trying to work on a bill right now that's going to be having a hearing coming up on October 20th, which is a bill to provide immediate access to childcare for the families experiencing homelessness. It's a chance for them as soon as they enter shelter to get immediate access to that early education opportunity that is so important for our young children to be able to feel safe and secure, but also for our families to get work and get back on their feet faster. And this was something that was in place back in 2007, but left due to funding challenges. But the great thing is it has a really great success rate for our families getting back on their feet and off of this assistance faster than the system that's in place right now.
And just in the final minute or so, with the holidays coming up, do you have a special program at the holidays?
We accept donations year-round, but especially at the holidays, people tend to be in the giving spirit as they should be. So we work with actually only new toy donations, believe it or not, because these kids have a lot of used things in their lives. We want them to feel like they are worthy of wonderful new materials in our play spaces and in their lives. So we have a wish list right on our website where you can actually go in and get discounted prices for the materials and items that we need the most. All you need to do is go to horizonschildren.org under the donate section, and you can find out right online how you can make a difference.
And unfortunately, we're out of time. I've been talking to Meghan Schafer of Horizons for Homeless Children, and thank you so much, Meghan, for being with me here today.
Thank you for having us.
I'm Laura Reckford, and this is Sunday Journal.
This podcast is a presentation of Cape Cod Broadcasting, which is solely responsible for its content. Thank you for listening. For more information, please visit us at capecodbroadcasting.com.